Welcome back to Inside the Pickle Jar. I'm Tanya Weaver, and this is the show where we get to be honest about what it means to live in a neurodivergent mind, the beauty of it, the mess of it, and everything in between. So, what if the thing you were told was wrong with you, the way your mind skips or fragments, loops, and leaps, was actually the most profound creative tool you have? That's not hypothetical. For my guest today, it's been a 40-year practice. And this is someone I've been wanting to talk to for a long time. Linda Carmella Sibio was born in 1953 in Montgomery, West Virginia. She went on to earn her BFA in painting from Ohio University. And it was while she was there at 18 years old that she was diagnosed with schizophrenia. And she didn't just survive that. Instead, Linda spent the next several decades doing something radical. She turned the very thinking patterns her diagnosis named, the fragmentation, the nonlinear association, what the clinical world calls psychotic thinking, into a creative methodology. Not a metaphor for it, not a way of coping with it, a methodology, a tool, a practice she has now been refining for over 40 years. So what does that mean exactly? Well, Linda is an interdisciplinary artist, a performer, an educator, and the founder of Bezerk Productions, a nonprofit that uses her special way of thinking as a generative creative methodology. Her work is in the Kennedy Center's permanent collection, and she's performed at the Walker Art Center, and for the last 2 decades, she's been running Cracked Eggs, a workshop series that hands that same methodology to neurodiverse youth and adults and says, your mind's not broken, it's a tool, let's use it. Linda Sibio, welcome to Inside the Pickle Jar.
Okay. My career has spanned 50 years, not 40.
Okay.
And I've been working with the cracked eggs since 2001. Okay?
Oh, goodness, even longer.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just that in 2021, around that time, we started a project with this mental health part of San Bernardino County, DBH, Department of Behavioral Health. And we got a grant called the Mental Health Services Act to do a 5-year take 5 years and make a model that they could use in their system for art.
That's
Okay?
awesome.
And
Yeah.
so that's what we did. We took 5 years to do it. It's almost over in June. And I'm finishing up a book called Cracked Eggs, Train the Trainer, where each student who takes the class has a choice of whether or not they want to be trained to be a teacher of the
That's
class.
awesome. Oh, that's new news too.
Yeah. And so those students, we've trained 3 people who are in the class. And Jessica? Oh, can you get me water, Kate? Okay, thanks. We ended it with this big bash that reviewed the whole 5 years we had been doing that. And each lesson is 2 hours long. Takes about 6 hours to do it. Thanks. And each lesson is different because what I teach is the underpinnings of how people's brains work, the symptoms of the illness are defined, that a psychologist said they had, like bipolar, schizophrenic, and schizoaffective are my expertise in this kind of work. And then I also have an expertise in post-traumatic stress syndrome, anxiety, and clinical depression.
This is
Okay.
such amazing work. These are all things that a lot of people hide behind closed doors, and you're not just bringing it out in the open, but you're bringing it out in a creative tool and methodology. Like I just applaud you for doing this and stepping forward and saying, you know, I have this thing going on and I want to help people who also have this thing going on, especially young, right?
Yeah.
Because, you know, that's when it's formative and they get to learn that they're not broken, they're just unique.
Right. Exactly.
And I love that. So I do want to talk about cracked eggs. We have lots of time to talk, but before we get any deeper into the work and methodology, I want to start with you. When you were a kid in Montgomery, West Virginia, what did you think you were going to be?
Well, first of all, I was born in Montgomery, but I lived in Boomer.
Okay.
And my father was worked in steel mine, making knives. And he was a veteran of the Korean War. My mother was a housewife. And back then, my biggest goal was to go to school like my big sister, Catherine.
That's great.
you know, but
Yeah.
was my memories from those years. I was always very imaginative, but it wasn't until we moved we went to Florida and lived there, and it wasn't until I started the first grade they had the opportunity to be creative. In my first grade class, we did everything like American Indians.
Oh,
We had a teepee. We did numbers with the beads, and multiplication, division, everything with the beads. And I read every book in the first and second grade library.
oh, that's amazing.
And that's when I knew I needed something really creative to do because I was really hyper and I didn't start drawing then, but that's when I knew I wasn't introduced to drawing
Oh,
in the first grade. Well, by the third grade, I knew I wanted to be an artist.
oh, that's
We
great.
moved
So,
back to we moved back to West Virginia, and I did a Valentine, and it was so good, and everyone was going ah, and the teacher says, and it's not that good, Linda. And I said, well, everyone else thinks so. so
yeah,
it was that good.
yeah.
And so by the time I was 11, I was in a children's home, and I liked to draw so much that they gave me a studio in the basement
Oh my
of the
goodness, you were in a
home.
children's home.
Yeah, and they gave me a studio in the basement uh, of the children's home, and I drew everything I could think of drawing. I did abstracts, I did realism, I did. The one that stands out the most is I did this trio of an Indian family, an American Indian family, on this kind of velvety blue paper. But it turned out really good. And there was this lady who taught the class, and my girlfriend, she got me in the class for free. She said, well, if she comes by and says that's interesting, that means she doesn't like it. That's the first thing she said to me. That's interesting.
Well, you're such an artist, and you
Yeah,
went to Ohio University for your BFA in painting. What was
right.
that like? Who grew up in West Virginia and Florida, like you were, and then you were in a children's home. Was that a big leap to go and do that?
Go to Ohio University.
Yeah, and get your
Oh,
BFA.
yeah.
It's
It
huge.
was. It was a big leap, and my guidance counselor at high school tried to get me to be a lawyer, which was another thing I loved.
Oh,
And I got scholarships to two schools, Ohio University, all my expenses paid. It was a talent scholarship, and then I got another all expense paid at a law school in Kentucky. But I went to the law school, and their art department was really small, and the drawings were terrible. And I said, "Nope, I'm going to the art school."
that's awesome. So you already know you're super creative and you know that you can do amazing stuff. And then you're diagnosed with schizophrenia at 18 while you're in school. What was that actual moment like? Like, not what it meant for your life in retrospect, but what did it feel like in the room? Was it a word that landed with weight, or did it take time to
Oh
settle?
yeah, because my mother was schizophrenic, and that's why we were in a children's home. I
Nice.
grew up with a mother who had schizophrenia. My father died when I was 4, and uh, I knew what it meant
Okay. Yeah.
because I
You
had
had
been to
seen it.
mental hospitals to see my mother. I knew what it meant to be schizophrenic in Ohio and West Virginia because I had been inside all of the mental hospitals visiting my mom.
Mm.
So when he said that, I said to myself, I'm leaving as soon as I graduate, I'm going to New York.
Hey.
Because I had gotten scholarships to this workshop in Provincetown, Massachusetts, where New York artists went, young New York artists. And I met all these New York artists. And so it made it possible for me to move to New York. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. And were you worried? Like, did you know that you needed treatment in advance and you took
Well,
proactive measures, or?
I decided that I wasn't going to be treated for schizophrenia because of the treatments are back then were shock treatments and really bad things
Yeah.
in the area where I lived. So I refused medication or anything. And I said, I'm just going to go to New York and paint and draw and see what happens.
Oh,
And,
goodness. So then, after Ohio, you made your way to Los Angeles. And what was your
I
plan?
went to FIT in New York too.
Oh, gosh. So you went from Ohio to New York, you participated in workshops and went to FIT. At what point did you decide to go to Los Angeles, and what was your plan, if there was one?
Okay. Well, when I was going to FIT, I was real my mental health was
Mm.
really bad, and I had started taking these classes at Herbert Bergdorf School of Acting, right?
Huh?
And they kicked me and my friend out because we were too intense. And so someone told me about this acting coach who was in New York from LA. His name's Eric Morris, and they said he teaches how to control raw emotions. And
Yeah.
that was my main problem, was it controlling my emotions. At least that's what I had a lot of hallucinations, but I didn't feel those were as bad as controlling my emotions.
Ah,
And
that
I think
sounds.
that happens with a lot of people who have mental health is that they have a lot of emotional problems because the way they grew up, like me, and it supersedes the illness, you know.
Yeah.
But and the thing is, emotional problems are curable, but the schizophrenia is not.
Right. Oh,
So
absolutely not. Yes.
So I decided I would work on my emotional problems. And I went to LA with like $20 in my pocket. And I
That's
got
awesome.
there. I got there. I had nowhere to go. I had no money. And this guy I was staying in North Hollywood and at a famous deli. I was just going there every day and drinking water. And this guy goes, he goes, "Do you have a place to stay?" And I said, "Not really." And so he let me stay at his house for a couple months. And I landed a job. What was my first job in LA? I landed a job far away from where I was staying. I stayed in those cheap hotels where you can only stay for a night, you
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
stuff like
Yeah.
that. And but anyway, I moved to Hollywood, the center of Hollywood, and started studying with Eric Morris, whose studio was South La Brea, I think. And it was not right next door to Pink's hot dog shop. And I studied with him for 2 years, and I felt like I knew everything he had to teach, you know, because I really was a good performer. And so I started my own thing called the Actors Jam Session, where
Okay.
I gave people little not vignettes but ideas, and they had to play them out. And one of them was you're inside of a box and it's closed and you can't get out. Okay?
Uh-huh.
And so it was just these quirky things I would think of, and everyone loved it. I had 30 students. And so um, after that was over, I got a job at a place called Radion. Oh no, that was my first job. Radion. It was a 1950s hamburger joint.
Okay.
And I got written up in the LA Times because I looked so cool.
That's awesome.
I also met my friend Michael Tolkien there, who's a really famous film writer, and the Tolkien family is all
Yeah.
in the business. And but anyway, the I, I did a lot of work on stand-up poetry. I kind of helped start stand-up poetry because I had the acting background and I wrote poems, and I put the poems together with the acting. And I also during that time came out with a product where it looked like your legs were painted,
Uh-huh.
but they're not. It's hosiery. And so, and pretty soon everyone copied that, you know. So
Of course.
everything I did kind of caught on, you know. So since I was from FIT, I decided to make a living by painting T-shirts and sweatshirts. And
Okay.
so I did that, and then I got a job at a place called the Maskers Club, which is the SAG building where all the SAG people hang out. And I did shows there. And I got involved with the heroin addicts. And, but I finally found my way to Rachel Rosenthal.
Hmm. I
And
wanted to ask you about her because she's between Eric Morris and Rachel Rosenthal, they're very different, but
yeah.
really deeply embodied practices.
Well, what Rachel had to teach me was interdisciplinary art. And that changed my career because I didn't want to just be a performance artist because I had the visual background. So that spawned years from 1985 to 1996 of these big pieces that were installations and performance and costumes and music and film and all sorts of multimedia stuff. And that was a result of working with her. But I also worked with a guy named John Malpede,
Mm-hmm.
And John Malpede and I together started helped. I taught the people at LAPD. It's a very
Really?
yeah, because
That's
he asked me to come in as a teacher. So I'm the one who taught them how to perform and everything. I never got any credit for it. So right now I'm making a documentary, and the condo at the East Corner was the first thing I designed for LAPD, and it was their very first show. So I have a clip of that that's going to be in the film.
Oh, that's great. Well, now it's out, right? Because now it's on this podcast. And so
Right. All
word
right.
will get
Yeah,
out.
that's right. But anyway, so I lived in LA from 1985 to about 2000, 1996.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had and during that time, I started working with mentally challenged people through workshops I did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
and it was through the LAPD, and then I worked for a company called LAMP.
Oh, okay.
And then I worked out, I just got a bunch of students together on Skid Row and worked out at the Los Angeles Theater Center.
Yeah.
So,
And for my audience, I do want to clarify when you say LAPD, you mean the Los Angeles Poverty Department, not the
right,
police department. Yeah.
yeah, Los Angeles Poverty Department.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I learned a lot by working with them, and years later it came to me everything that I learned. But I was teaching them on Skid Row my insanity principle
That's
workshop.
awesome.
Okay,
That's great.
and one of the best workshops was I had people who studied with me from all over the world, and I had about seven of those, and about seven people who were my students on Skid Row. So I invited them both to do a workshop with me on the insanity principle. And the people on Skid Row who were mentally challenged, I didn't introduce people. I said, why don't you say something about yourself and introduce yourself by first name only, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
so they didn't know the established artists did not know the other people were, uh, I didn't validate that they had a mental challenge. I just put them together to
That's
see what
awesome.
would happen. And it was one of the best workshops I ever taught, because the established artists became more creative, and the Skid Row artists became it started doing production things like selling tickets. So you
Yeah.
have these people going around Skid Row selling tickets, and they go, "Hello, my name is so and so, and I am an interdisciplinary artist, and we're doing the show at the Los Angeles theaters."
Yeah.
It was great,
And it gave them a grounding point, right? They kind of got a
Right.
little, and a purpose, they felt
Uh-huh.
included because at that time I might imagine a lot of people on Skid Row or had mental health concerns were being excommunicated from society. And
Oh
you
yeah.
gave them community, which I so relate to. I definitely believe in creating community for neurodivergent people. So I really appreciate your story. But at this time, you're also navigating your own diagnosis. Were
Right. And
Yeah,
what
were
I
you out and
finally
about it in this, or was
What
it
I
still in
finally
private?
did, after I did a couple one big show, on my second big show is I would write grants for my piece, my solo piece, and then I would say my community outreach for the grant was working with my students, and they would do something around a similar subject that I did. Like if it was suicide, they would do a suicide piece, or
Mm-hmm.
if it was whatever it was, the theme of
Mm-hmm.
my show, they did theme that I would lead a discussion, and they would come up with something they wanted to do after hearing my discussion. You know? And I also started putting them in my pieces occasionally.
Yeah.
It
And
was
was this still Operation? Was this still Operation Hammer before you did
yeah,
Berserk?
Operation Hammer. This was
That's
Operation Hammer in 1990. I started Operation Hammer.
yeah. So you've developed what you have described as a methodology that's rooted in psychotic thinking patterns, schizophrenic cognition, fragmentation, nonlinear association, all as generative creative strategies rather than
Right.
pathologies. Can you
Right.
help me and my audience know what that actually looks like and what does fragmentation look like when it becomes a tool?
Okay. Um, let's see. Fragmentation. Well, let me tell you what I think it is. Fragmentation is where you think in little spurts of things. They're not complete sentences, and you also change subjects a lot, like
Yeah.
10 times within the fragmentations. And then there's things called interrupters, which even are beyond fragmentation, where you'll say something that has nothing to do with any story you're talking about, and it just comes out of the blue and it interjects itself. Okay? So it's
Okay.
even more deconstructed than you can think. I mean, this is not deconstruction, it's how the mind works. So if you become familiar with the patterns in the mind that you are experiencing, you can make drawings from it, you can make paintings. I did a whole show called The Insanity Principle,
Yeah.
and it was all my hallucinations throughout my life. And then, what else do I want to say? Refresh the question?
Oh, sure. So you have a whole methodology rooted in psychotic thinking, and I was just trying, it's as a generative creative strategy rather than pathology. And I
Right.
just,
Yeah,
what
that's
does that actually look like? I
yes.
mean,
I believe that people have bipolar, they have schizophrenia, they have, but I don't believe there's anything wrong with it.
yeah,
Yeah, I believe that it's a tool that you can use to be creative. And you don't have to want to be an artist to have it be helpful to you, because it defines a certain way of thinking of based on the word salad. Okay?
yeah,
And
yeah.
I found out that the word salad has about 10 different subjects happening, a mixing of past, present, and future time, a then it has fragmentation, disassociation, depression, hallucinations, visions, all sorts of abstracted things, and you put them all together. If you learn to draw, you can put them all together, and it can be a really compelling piece of art.
Yeah. So the word psychotic in society carries a lot of weight, both clinically, culturally, it's stigmatized, but you use it deliberately and without softening. When did you decide to claim it in that way, rather than work around it?
When I worked on Skid Row, there was a lady named Molly Lowry. And Molly Lowry was a saint to many people. And she started three facilities on Skid Row in 1985. And I was in the brochure. And she saw that I do these big pieces. And she says, I think you should come out and say you're schizophrenic. I said, why? Well, why in God's name would I want to do that? And she said, because it'll help other people on the row and elsewhere to have faith that they
Yeah.
can get out. So that's
Yeah.
why I did it.
I really hope you've enjoyed this first half of my conversation with Linda Sibio. I think she's a fascinating person, and the second part is just as interesting. She's led a very full and amazing life. So if you enjoyed this first half, please like, subscribe, share, and stay tuned for part 2 of my conversation with Linda Sibio. Thanks so much. Bye.